This Pitch Breakfast video is brought to you by Spangler and Agins, attorneys for Charlotte's startup community.
Okay, so I'm going to start with this slide in front of you, and really this is a leadership development program like no other. And what I'll start with is the fact that this person has a leash on their right foot, which means that when they stand on a surfboard, they stand with their left foot forward. If you stand with your right foot forward, you're goofy foot. If you stand with your left foot forward, you're regular foot. That is an innate thing. It's like being right-handed or left-handed. And it's one of the first things you teach someone when they learn to surf is, are you regular or goofy foot? So which is in your comfort zone? Unlike that, leadership is a skill that is learned, right? It's not innate, and leaders need to be developed. But leadership matters. It's the differentiator between great companies and the rest. And right now there's a war for talent to find great leaders for companies or to build them within. The challenge, as I see it, is that traditional leadership development training doesn't work. It's flawed. Only about 10% of what people learn in a classroom is retained 1 week after the training is over. Sitting in a classroom, raising your hand and so forth, I shared this with my daughter and she said, I learn more when we go on field trips than I learned in the classroom. And as an 8th grader, that's a pretty insightful statement. So what is Leader Surf? It's a field trip. It's a field trip for experienced leaders. I believe that learning to surf will make you a better leader. And with that in mind, we've built a program that will kind of push your buttons and get you thinking through a different lens. Believe that training for adults who have the attention span that's shorter than kids, and I hope I can hold you for 5 minutes, stretching the mind, body, and soul, so it's got to be all in a foreign environment with a community of engaged learners like yourself, where risk-taking is not only encouraged but required, where you actually are responsible for the learning that you have. Those are some of the elements that make for a successful program. So our program is a week-long retreat for up to 10 people in a cohort, hopefully from different companies, a diverse set of people. And we take you for 5 nights, 6 days to Playa Santana, which is an exotic, beautiful beach on the Pacific coast of Nicaragua, only about a 4-hour flight from Charlotte. And in that 5-night, 6-day program, there's specific learning modules. The first is that you'll go through leadership development training programs, but not sitting in a classroom, but sitting under a tiki hut per se. You'll learn about self-awareness, you'll learn about giving and receiving feedback, teamwork, conflict management. As a certified coach, each participant will get a pre-session, a session during the time there, and a post-follow-up session with me. There's also leadership assessments that are involved in that. We'll form this community of learners where each person will share a business challenge they're faced with, and they'll use the other 9 participants as an advisory panel to give them input and feedback. And then, of course, yes, every day there will be at least 2 hours of surfing lessons. I believe in servant leadership and this idea that we learn best about ourselves when we're involving and helping others. And Nicaragua is the 2nd poorest country in the Western Hemisphere after Haiti. They have a water problem. You can't drink the tap water there. And so we've partnered with a company called Waves for Water, where we will go into villages with a doctor and we'll install water filtration systems, where we're making a sustainable change and bettering the lives of the people in Nicaragua. So what does surfing have to do with leadership? Well, you hear the metaphor all the time, catch the wave, the waves of change. Here are just 3 ways. Balance is key. You have to maintain your balance to be good on a surfboard, but we all, of course, are faced with the challenge of balance in life, whether it's growing revenue, containing costs, work-life balance, etc. You've got to be prepared. People think that surfing is all about that riding the wave. That's what the money shot is that you see on TV. Really, surfing is about paddling. It's about getting yourself in a position to be successful, and business is about getting yourself in a position to make your business successful. You can't control the ocean. The last point here is that you've got to maintain perspective. The ocean looks very different when you're standing on the beach than it does when you're out in it. And often in business, we're in the middle of the situation and we need to helicopter out to get a different perspective. When was the last time you learned a new skill? As adults, we end up in our comfort zone. And as a result of being in our comfort zone, we don't take risks. Surfing requires vulnerability, and learning happens when we're in our learning zone, not our comfort zone. Our target audience, seasoned business leaders with 10 plus years of experience, not couch potatoes. You've got to have an active lifestyle because you're going to be in the ocean working. 6-day all-inclusive, $9,900 is the price point. That includes everything other than airfare, all the learning materials, the hotel, etc. Our qualifications, I've been doing this stuff for 20 plus years for a number of different companies, certified coach, and built and delivered programs. It's not a boondoggle, and I will reinforce that this is not a boondoggle. There's self-awareness that'll be enhanced. You'll get a new professional network. You'll make a difference in the lives of others. And for your company, they're going to have a more engaged employee that comes home excited about their job. And if they get somebody that's applying for a job there as an executive and say, what do you do to develop your executives? Well, we just sent someone to Nicaragua for a week to develop themselves. So what do we want from you? We want your feedback on the program. We want you to help market it and be our brand evangelists. And the other is that for those that are here looking for an investment, here's an investment for you. Invest in yourself by attending a LeaderSurf program. Thank you.
Who wants to go first?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Yeah.
What are you looking for in this pitch?
I would love some feedback on the premise of it, who you think our target audience is, and whether this is something that you or people you know would be interested in attending.
Then people would have
Yeah.
MO.
So, great job.
Thank you.
Think you're just great at telling a story, passionate about this. It sounds really fun. I think that you really balance that opening with, just bringing the audience in. And so I think that just from the beginning you had me at least. And so hopefully you had the entire audience. I think this falls within, certainly it's a leadership, but it's also very interesting because we live in a time where people want unique experiences.
Right.
And I think there's an opportunity for you to potentially weave that in. So it's certainly the leadership, you don't want to lose that. But the price point is such that you're playing also in the experience category and you're talking about networks. And so the question I had was, can you go as an individual? So
Yes.
it just basically, you can sign up as an individual. You said a cohort of 10. That was a little bit unclear. If I
Yes,
had to
so-
basically
so-
have people I know, or can I go by myself?
100%. I want people to go by themselves. I would appreciate and expect that more often that they are going to be sponsored by a company to
Okay.
go. But the hope is that it's a bunch of people from different companies. Right now for the program in February, the first one, I have 3 different people. I have somebody from a large enterprise company, I have the CEO of a smaller company,
Okay.
and then I have a VP level person from a mid-sized company.
Great.
Different industries, different walks of life. Originally, my plan was targeting large enterprises to then have this in their repertoire for high potential leaders. What I'm finding is that if a leader wants to go, they've got to sell their boss, that then has to sell the company. If you are an individual that wants to go and you're the CEO of a company, you've probably invested all your time and effort in building your business, but you've done little to develop yourself. You can stroke that check, no problem. Have this experience where you're going to meet some interesting people and they'll help you solve your problems that you're having in growing your business.
Yeah, to me, that's a little bit of I'd like to see some of that worked into the pitch because,
Yeah.
again, who is it? You're talking about the target audience.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure who that was. If you ultimately are talking about the benefit of a network and
Sure.
that you're going to meet people in other industries and in different, different size companies that
Yep.
you can go alone. That's a real value proposition similar to Young
Yep.
President's Organization, right?
Absolutely.
So I think
So-
that's a little bit of
Yep.
just thinking through the experience side, thinking through the leadership side, but who are you targeting? I think it could
Yep.
be someone
Yep.
in that realm.
Yeah.
To me, the servant leadership, you're fitting a lot in there, and so that broke it up a little bit for me.
Okay.
I too believe in that, but I
Yep.
think if you had to,
Pull some.
that could be something at the very end, which is oh, by the way, and
Yeah.
we're also doing good for the world,
Yeah.
versus where it was right there. But I just think that you talked through the definition of the problem and that people want to learn differently. There's this experiential opportunity mixed with who the target audience can be. I think it's that person who can write the check.
Yeah.
And then those people are starting to talk about that community and telling other people. And then hopefully you also get some enterprise or big customers mixed in there for diversity.
That's great. Thank you, Kristen.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
great job.
Thanks.
I also thought it was a good job. I have a couple questions that,
Yeah.
it's certainly a big market, right? Leadership development, talent is an enormous opportunity. If you guys have a firm and you're credible, then I think, this is really about, is this an interesting product? And how does it differentiate? We buy leadership stuff all the time as an enterprise, so I'll speak from a B2B context or lens. The couple questions that I have is, as a leader and in some of my executive team, the point in time at which someone experiences leadership training is obviously can be transformational for them and is very valuable. But what we struggle with more is the front end, which is who has the potential and can benefit the most, and the back end, which is once done, how do they bring that context to the organization or our enterprise in a specific enough way that there is real opportunity for us in terms of recouping our investment, in terms of retaining this employee and that kind of thing. Is there anything going on consultatively or advisory before or after that bookend this?
I think there is. So part of it is that each person that is signed up does an intake session in advance, on the phone, really to understand what are their individual goals, because the idea is to build an individual learning experience for each person there and mapping that, and then while at the program to hold them accountable for that, and then also with follow-up call, the like. But to your point of who should attend and how a company chooses people for leadership, my experience is that by having your leaders apply for a leadership program versus handpicking them, they don't go as prisoners, they go as willing participants that are invested in it from the start, because they had to jump through some hoops in order to go. And that in and of itself makes a big difference. The other is to hold them accountable to come back and share a PowerPoint, a photo montage. Here's what I learned. I'm accountable for my learning, and I'm going to share it with the rest of my peer group, and I'm going to share it with the organization.
So from a marketing perspective, so that's good,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. From a marketing perspective, just the other thing I would say is when we're selecting and looking at leadership programs, the first toll gate for us is always to talk to people who have been in the program. I think the best opportunity to sell stuff like this is through peer influence. If someone had great experience and they are willing to share that, that's really huge, and I think that's kind of and that's where people who raise their hand in our organization say, hey, I think I have leadership potential, I want to be involved in that. That's the first thing they do, is they either have or they're looking around at their peers and seeing the opportunity as a result of something they've done.
Yeah. So my challenge is, until I've done the first program, I don't have the testimonials. I want the person with sand in their face saying, I just rode my first wave and it transformed me. I have a confidence I didn't have. What I have to start with are testimonials from big brand companies that I've been doing work with, where they're saying that I build unique leadership programs that have a high impact.
Yeah.
Right?
That's certainly a very credible place to start. Obviously, the quicker that you can run somebody through this specific program, I think the better.
Yeah, and then just some of I'm doing a bunch of marketing stuff around social media, the koozies, and word of mouth.
Yeah.
And word of mouth is really the most powerful. I mean, the amount of online advertising is getting me where I need to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Are you looking for the type of person that would attend like the Center for Creative Leadership?
Yes, so they are a competitor to this. But having been trained in their program, having gone through many of their programs, I still find the best learning at Center for Creative Leadership Programs happens at the hotel bar, the evenings in between, when people are sitting around saying, my boss is a complete jerk, and someone says, have you tried this or tried that? And those conversations socially are where the impact happens, not through the program.
I feel like it's a little antiquated. I hate to say that, but I feel like, what's their price point?
The Center for
So they're starting, their lowest price point is $7,300, and that does not include the hotel. It's one meal a day.
Yeah.
This is everything other than your airfare.
Do you surf?
Yes.
So then that getting up on a surfboard for the first time is a little bit transformational in and of itself, and so
100%.
I'm sure you're hanging your hat on some of that. I wonder if there isn't an opportunity.
I look at people who had no desire to surf, right?
Oh man, if you have not before, the first time, I've only done it 3 times, and the first time you stand on top of a wave is an incredibly visceral, real experience. And so I think that's kind of part of this, probably in your mind. But that experience is so unique and interesting. I wonder if you just recognize that what happens at the bar and the community, I wonder if there isn't something after this that is, a lot of these people are going to continue to surf if it's their first time. How do you online, socially,
the idea was to build a cohort
bring people
of,
together? I think that there's a community to be built around the activity itself because of the nature of it. It can be very.
I love that, and I've been thinking about. I mean, you can start with a LinkedIn group or whatever, but I think it can go much further than that.
Yeah. What if 4 or 5 years from now you've got a couple hundred people meeting at in Wrightsville because it's a good once a year and you're having a wave day or whatever and refreshing your training or whatever. I just think there's a lot of opportunity to extend the surfing component of it.
Yeah. Sounds like you've got to send somebody from your company.
I love it.
Okay. Do you want to let the audience ask?
Yeah. Y'all have anything else? Okay, audience, your turn.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, Al.
During the last economic downturn, companies like AIG and the banks got hit with a lot of negative publicity for going on boondoggles.
Yep.
What's your plan for a negative economy in this business?
Sure. I mean, part of it is that I've got people from Europe, I've got people from other countries that are potentially interested. So the question is whether that is a global downturn or not. There's always going to be people that are still willing to spend some money. I think there's a value in this. And when we look at it compared to the Center for Creative Leadership, even in a down economy, well, yes, you can buy talent. There's still going to be a need to develop talent. And I think that this show that there's proof in the fact that people learn better through experience than they do through a classroom. And so even though you may look at it and say, optically this may be a bit of a challenge, I think once I have the testimonials that can show that this is transformational to people, I think we can overcome that. And if we can't, this is a secondary business to my core business, which is helping companies to potentially survive downturn. I run a human capital consulting firm, so this feeds my core business as well.
Okay. We're out.
We're out?
Yep. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Hey, if you have questions, please come see me after.